Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today we have two very interesting guests who are going to talk all about the publishing industry. Now, the first guest that I want to introduce is Albert Kaufman. Albert he's been writing for about 13 years as a professional freelancer and consulting for 4 years in publishing, his family trade. I mean, he is doing a lot. And he says flexibility is the core characteristic needed to succeed as a writer. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about all different aspects of being a publisher and why you do it and how influential your company has become. But I want to know that word when I say core characteristic needed to succeed. What is the core characteristic, Albert?
Well, flexibility within a writer is primary in order to survive, and I use that term very strictly as a writer. When you're a writer, you must be able to kind of flex around a lot of different entities and a lot of different obstacles. When you decide to pick up the field and jump into the career of a writer, you now must shift around, shift schedules around, and you must start to understand how to write fluently. And what I mean by writing fluently is, going in not just a style of third person to first person to, different views of writing, but different types of writing, from scholarly to fictional to whatever else, whatever your client may need. You have to be able to, fluidity. You have to be very fluent, very flexible. You have to become different people constantly, kind of like acting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you're unable to twist words to captivate a reader, what do you say to the person who comes to you and says, well, I want to self-publish my book, and, I just want to understand all the facets of doing it successfully?
Well, the first thing you need to do as a writer is understand yourself as a writer. A lot of people don't take the time to kind of step back and really look at themselves as a wordsmith. It's our job as inkslingers just to captivate and hold the attention of the audience, especially when you get into publishing. Your book, your creation, your publication is put there no matter what form, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. It's there to hold the reader. It's there to hold the imagination hostage. Per se, in a hostile term.
That's a great way to put it, because you really want to get as many people to read your book as possible, and you have to be, sometimes you have to reach a niche audience that understands that there is a real twist and a real exciting opportunity to make yourself successful, but you really have to get the advice of someone like you how to do it. Okay, mm-hmm. I want to, before I get you to talk a little bit more about your industry and all of the things that you're doing right now, I would like to introduce to our show one of your wonderful and good in every way colleagues, Haley Young. Now, Haley is an editor for this wonderful Gladiator Publishing company, and she's done a lot of things, and she's had a lot of experience editing things, being, in a sense, a mentor for a lot of the people who want to publish. So welcome to our show, Haley Young, and join us in that.
So hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Haley, we've talked often about what it's like to be an editor. I want you to kind of give a definition of what you call yourself, the editor, a publisher. What is it exactly that you do?
I do call myself an editor. I think that I approach it maybe differently than some of the other people in the industry. To me, my job is just to take that manuscript and polish it the best I can. Of course, we want to address any of those just technical issues as far as grammar and sentence structure, and we want to make sure that the story flows. I make notes aside from their manuscript. If I notice any places that maybe need some extra detail or where I feel like maybe they've gone a little too far. And then, we get together, we have a meeting, and we discuss those issues. And then it's up to the writer, what they want to address, what they want to change. But to me, my job is just to polish that and make it the best that I possibly can.
I hear you. Now, sometimes people who live through the hardships, as Albert has said, endure. It's an accurate way, he says, to live through the experience of trying to publish. Now, when you talk to some of the persons who are the writers who come to you, do you give them a sense of excitement it is, and also do you also tell them, listen, I have to let you know that this may not be a successful endeavor at the moment, but you're growing from it, and you're going to learn a lot from it. And my question to you, Haley, is what do you think that they learn when they come to you and they say, okay, I've been struggling to write this, but here it is, and I'm going to make a success. I mean, I'm going to sell thousands of books. How do you approach that with them?
First and foremost, everybody that comes to us, our first thing that we try to make sure we do is just to always be encouraging, because it's something that's so needed. We sure don't want to discourage a writer, but we do try to make sure that they understand, especially if it's early in their career, their first book, be realistic in what you're expecting. This is our plan. We always have our marketing plan, where we want to promote and, try to get their book. But we also try to make sure that they understand, and show them kind of other people's statistics from maybe their first book. This is what you should probably expect. This is your first book. This is a learning experience. And from here on, every book you write, you're going to get better at this. It's going to become more of a routine, and you're going to know what to expect and know what to do on your end to make it more successful. But you just can't have that thought early on in your career that I'm going to make millions off this book. Unfortunately today, that's just not how it works, and it seems like an awful lot of your success comes from your web presence, and there are just so many factors and so many things that they have to start building. Mm-hmm. But we be realistic and be honest, but we always try to make sure that we're very encouraging, because it is an amazing experience.
Yes, Albert, J.C. Rollins, when she wrote her book, never expected. And in fact, she got so many different rejections. It was a miracle that somebody caught on to her book, and the power and the whole idea that something can turn into films, can turn into, you name it. It was a huge success. What do you attribute that to? Because, I understand that she used to sit in coffee shops, write, and she had nothing. And all of a sudden now she's like, what can we say about her? She's a multi-millionaire, and probably she's done something right. Now, what did she do that's right?
Well, her story is actually very funny. Believe it or not, Haley brought it to me. And we kind of read up on it, and we kind of did a little research on it, not even for any statistical book or anything, just out of fun. What we found out was the reason why she was picked up was not because of the publishing house, editor-in-chief or publisher himself. It was actually contributed to the publisher's daughter, from what I understand, is the one who brought him the manuscript and said, hey, Dad, I like this, bring this on. And he did. And he gave her a very small upfront payment, and they kind of treated it as if it was going to be a complete flop. And that's kind of an attestament, sort of, a stroke of realism to a majestic way of, catching the unicorn would be a good sense. Because nowadays it's the manuscripting world, especially going traditional, it doesn't pay out for upfront for newer writers as one would perceive. We actually ran across some more statistics yesterday, because what we do is we're constantly looking at statistics, constantly keeping up with the market, constantly keeping up what's going on in our own industry. We found out that a lot of them go by Twitter followers, which is a highly, that's a unique way of looking at it, and I didn't even know that either. And Haley, she's head of research over here at Gladiator, and she brought that to my attention. And a lot of them go, and you're looking at tens of thousands for them to even consider you a worthy investment. Because at the end of the day, that's what you are. When you become a writer and you write a book, you're now a business. You're now an entity.
So if I get you straight, you're kind of explaining that people who become writers or has to look at what they're doing and say to themselves, the chances of my becoming successful are, what would you give it like 5%, 10%? I mean, what's the percentage of people who write their first book who become real popular writers?
The percentage is very low. It's hard to really put a number on it. It is very low, but there are those instances where it just clicks, and your writing does just, capture the audience and it does take off. It's a small percentage that happens, on a realistic basis. But what we do here is we try to invoke and we try to manipulate that statistic in the writer's favor as much as possible. We don't build them as a book when they come to us. Our marketing with them starts months prior to the book even coming out. We push them as an author first. We try to build their following. We try getting them some traction, trying to kind of build a celebrity off of it. Trying to build a nice, solidified structure that we can actually build on, a nice foundation, and it helps their it benefits them, and like my first book caught very well, and I was an unknown writer when my first book went, and I topped some charts, and it was a really nice experience, but eventually it died out, and so I was a head of sales in quite a few different areas, and now it's it completely it droughted. And luckily I have other avenues where I have a source of income, but we try to explain it to our authors and keep a very realistic mindset.
So what you're saying essentially is that you're an entrepreneur and you have to have a day job is what you're explaining to us. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because even in virtually all kinds of industries centered around the arts in particular, so I'm talking about filmmaking, TV shows, that sort of thing, the chances of being very successful are fairly low, but you learn from each thing, and if you have a day job, what an exciting life you have. You're doing things that you probably feel very strong about and excited about, so it's a great life, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't trade what I do for the world. I have mornings where I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But at the end of the day, I'm proud of every word I've ever written, and I'm going on my third book right now, and it's been such an amazing journey. And at the end of the day, when you're an author, you're a brand. You're building a brand, and I have my little Twitter following, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I have all my social medias that I keep up with, and I'm always, in contact with my fans, and, I try to keep up in that industry. But at the end of the day, I love what I do, and if you love what you do, there's no such thing as failure. Who cares about the numbers? If you love your book and you're proud of your book, we'll take care of it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your books, Albert, because I think our audience ought to know about what you're writing and what your plans are for even writing your next book. So tell us a little bit about your books and why you love these particular stories that you tell.
Okay, the first one I have is it's called The Trail of Trials. That one caught some pretty good traction. That's the one that I was saying topped some charts. That one was kind of a personal creation of mine. That I didn't have the most puristic life, as I like to tell people. I didn't have a really terrible life, but I was 17 when I joined the Army. I did 3 tours of duty, and so what I did when I would feel overwhelmed with an emotion, which ironically any emotion to me at the time was overwhelming, which is an imbalance, I was told. Growing up, and they finally understood it. I had a really awkward imbalance. It's kind of like a rare imbalance type deal. So any emotion I felt was just super overwhelming, and I would go into panic attacks.
Really?
And so my older brother, Steven, he told me, he says, when you feel those, you go write something. Because I used to love writing. I was writing, in the freelance market a little bit. He's like, you love writing so much. He goes, when you start feeling that, write a poem about it. He goes, don't write about what's going on. No one cares about what's going on. He goes, just write about, how you're feeling. After my brother passed away, me and Haley actually got together, and we found them. And we found the surviving a lot of them. And we didn't realize that so many have survived the years of me moving and, having kids who destroy everything.
Yeah,
my kids getting everything. And so we actually ended up publishing it. And it did very well. And it did well for itself. And so we're all feeling. The second one was Words in War, which is a collaboration piece I did with a young author named Tiffany Wyatt. She's coming out with her new book soon. Haley has a couple pieces in there. And that was actually for a youth contest we did.
Right. Called
the Youth Inkslingers contest. And the winner was announced. The two winners were actually announced in that book, without their knowing. And so we kind of threw our tidbits in there to kind of catch traction towards the book, to have some eyes on it. And that was a fun piece. And this next one we're working on will be released June 13th. Is on pre-order now. It's called Literarily Lost. It is the brainchild of Miss Haley Young. And what it is the culmination of a 1-year case study that we did in the freelance marketing and the writer's world in general. It was actually referred to by a friend of ours as the Yellow Pages of publishing. And it actually lists index style and encyclopedically every resource that is available to a writer today, from the minute you decide to be a writer to the minute you want to retire. And it just goes, and it will be showcased at the American Library Association, their annual there in Minnesota, I believe it is. And then it'll be at the New York City Rights Fair, and it'll also be in the National Education Association.
To say the least, I think you're pretty exciting about that. Haley, let me ask you something. Albert just said that this new book is going to be, was rather a brainchild from you. Now, what made you think about this? And again, I want to understand the process. You wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, okay, I have to create something. I have to be innovative. I have to do something that is going to be successful for my company. Is that accurate? And if it is, just again, take us through the process.
Typically, that is how that would have happened. But this particular book, I've been fielding questions all day. My email was full, and just writers, and Al and I got to talking about our experiences early in our careers, and I just made the comment, there really needs to just be a book, a how-to book that takes you through every step and tells you where to go and what you need to do and what resources are accurate, what companies you need to avoid, because at that point, we'd had some bad experiences, and really it was just kind of us joking. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, why not? We could do that. And so, I talked to him, and we pulled in some friends and put together a research team and just kind of sat them down and said, guys, this is what we want to do. Do you think we can pull it off? And we dove in, and it was a solid year of just research, so much research. But it really does take you through from the beginning to the end, resources, how to use those resources, and, what's going to help you kind of reach every milestone as you go through your career. Because we wish that we had that. And for these young writers that we see struggling, I just thought, it's going to be such an asset and such a tool to just help them know where to look.
Give us the name of the book again so that our audience will understand where to go.
It's Literarily Lost.
It's Literarily Lost. I just want to stop you for a second, and I want to defer to you, Albert. When you come up with a name, how do you do that? Because that's probably one of the most difficult things.
All right, so the original name of Literarily Lost was The Writer's Bible. And that was the name I came up with because I'm usually the clever. I like to do copywriting, taglining, and it's kind of where my niche has always been. And so I always took myself as the big, brave, I could come up with any title guy, Well, Literarily Lost was it was off of a typo that Haley had.
Really?
Yeah, it was. She was writing. So I remember what she was writing, but she misspelled the word, and it was catchy. And then she came to me with it. I was like, man, that's better than mine.
Well,
and there it was.
Sometimes we all feel that way, but it's a great name for a book.
Oh yeah, it's a literally. It's actually a tongue twister too. It was such a. I have a hard time saying it literally, but now it's funny because since we got used to saying it, I love hearing other people try to say it for the first time. It's become like a little game for us.
Jump in, Haley. I hear you. Something's going on in your head there.
It just turns out that that's actually a word.
There you go. Today, let's go to another situation. Today, our youth are used to doing everything on the computer. I'm not sure that our young do books on tape or whether they do books on the computer, but certainly adults do it, and you see it all the time. Now, does that affect your business in any way? Is the communications or the telecommunications business a plus or minus?
Well, it depends on what aspect. Like when we start diving into the marketing of the books and pushing an author and building their brands, I still revert back to the old school way of my grandpa doing it, which was you call a person up and you get a result. And we actually won an award through DexMedia and Yellow Pages and all of them because of the way we do our marketing. And they said it was innovative at one point in time when I was speaking to one of the reps. They said it's a very innovative way of doing it. I said, buddy, this has been around since me and you were ever a glimpse, in our father's eye.
Right.
So it has its benefits, and then again, it has its drawbacks. Its pros and cons list, as does everything else. Mm-hmm. As far as information-wise, the computer puts everything right there in front of you. It's a big issue with a lot of kids nowadays is that they don't go past the first or second page of Google, and that's a hindrance for them. Like we dive a little bit deep. We also go into searching techniques inside Literally Lost, little tricks and little tidbits and tricks that help you dive past just the initial phrase you put into your search engine, and it helps you kind of pinpoint what you're looking for better, and kind of pulls all the information, extracts everything you need for you.
Yeah. Now, Haley, years and years and years ago, there were books that were very, how should I say, they were very exciting, they were very sexy, they were very interesting because of the nature of the characters that were in the book. I could think of a million books that were that way, and we used to be so self-absorbed. I shouldn't say self-absorbed, but absorbed in those books because the stories were amazing. From your standpoint, you're a young person, but the question is, do you think that the books that are that are being published today are the same as the books that were so fascinating many years ago?
I think that they're out there. I don't think it's as common. I think that for, the last, 10 or so years, I think for a while writers kind of got where it was, this is what's selling, this is what I'm going to write. And for a while it just seemed like a lot of what we were seeing was just very generic. Mm-hmm. I think we're coming out of that. We've seen some amazing creativity lately and some amazing talent, and I think those books have probably been there, but I just think that the publishing game has gotten different, and I think the market changed and the economy changed, and I think publishers started being more cautious with what they were willing to take a risk on. Mm-hmm. So I think for a while we kind of stopped seeing those just really different, really gripping stories. But I do think that we're starting to come out of that, and we have seen some amazing books come out, in this past year, and we have some amazing books that from our authors that are going to be coming out in the next year, and there is some amazing creativity out there. I just think for a while, I think it kind of got off track.
Yeah.
And but they exist.
So, Albert, do you think it's really about the money?
the catch-22 question. Yeah, a lot on our side, the publishing side. Yes, I would like to say a lot of it is economically driven. And that's kind of why we exist to begin with. We are. I hate to say that we're the only company. We're actually 80% cheaper than our nearest competitor, with different programs made to teach authors and show them how it's done on our ends. So that way, the next time they go to publish a book, they don't need to hire anybody, myself included. They don't have to spend a penny on any outside third party to assist them. And from the research we've done, and I've been in the publishing game since I was a youngster, since I was a little toddler running around. Right. I've been around publishing, and I know for a fact, and I could you could quote me on this, you could mark it anywhere you want to, that I know for a fact that it is overcharged today. Right. And a lot of it has to do with publishers being lazy. It is their laziness and wanting to just hire out to do it. And I'm a roll up your sleeve and get down and dirty. You went through the process to write it. You went through the blood, sweat, and tears to put your imagination on paper. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go through the hardship of getting it out there for as cheap as humanly possible. Yeah.
I want to tell you a little story, and then I'd like to have a story from you. And that is that years ago, I was in New York, and I was down in the subway in New York, and there were two women there who were selling their books. You could see that they were self-published because of the nature of the paper and, how they were doing it. But it was an amazing thing for me to just see people down in the subway selling their books. And then the next thing is in front of the New York Library, there's a guy, and I've interviewed him actually, who's written also books of poems and other kinds of books, and he sells it in front of the New York Public Library. Now,
good for him.
It's such it's you want to talk about innovative and persuasive and hard work, but trying to make a success is not easy, as you've said, and this is the way they do it. So I would like a story from you as well, Al. Tell us about one of the people or one of the writers that you've met, and a little bit about how they have gotten their books out and why they're so successful, or maybe they're trying to be successful. But, I would love to hear about somebody who's really starting from scratch and just trying and doing what they have to do.
Well, we have a friend of ours. She's a Canadian author. Her name is Vanessas Book. And I met her when I got back into the freelance market. It's going to sound really weird. I was working on a manuscript that I queried out to a whole bunch of publishers as research, and they all kicked back. And then they kicked back. Some of them were actually very harsh in what they said. Now, the manuscript I put out there was written by a buddy of ours that is in the business with us. He is, part of our company, and we put it out there to kind of see how they how they would take it, and it was actually a bestseller. Yeah, and we only gave them like 3 or 4 pages. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. We didn't want to give away too much. Well, they had some harsh words, and so they kicked it back, and so I kind of jumped into different groups and kind of won feedback. So I played the third party guy. And this female, Vanessas Book, she had a book out called All of Me, All of You, and it was I actually ended up buying it. It was an amazing book. I loved it. It was new adult. It was a new adult, they call it, and she's one of the first to coin that. Yeah. She was one of the first new adult books out there, and she just came out with her new book. It's on the brink of Haley, do you remember the name? On the brink of
I don't.
Okay, but God, no. So it starts with on the brink, and then
it's like on the brink of something. But she's just getting ready to publish it. She's in the editing process now, and she's actually not even going through us. She's self-publishing, and the hustle on this girl it's inspiring. And we speak. She's actually quoted in our book, Inside Literarily Lost. And I have never met an author in my life that has the positivity and the drive that this woman has. and she really, really pushes, and she really, really, grinds her teeth in there. She hits that, that cobblestone, and she really just runs with it.
Yeah.
And I told her that, I don't care what, who she goes to publish or how she does it. If she needs anything from Gladiator, we are at her beck and call. Because she was the only one to jump up and, not knowing who I was, jumped up and said, "Hey, I'll help you out."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I said, this, and she was all in.
That is so great. There are people, when you speak about somebody who is so driven, it reminds me again of the person who I told you writes his books in front of, or rather sells his books in front of the New York Public Library. That's another person who's been driven. One of the things you're going to laugh, what he's done, he's actually gotten on a train and, hopped on a train. You don't think people do that, but he did it, and he went across the country, and he got a lot of the stories that he wrote in his book from his experiences every time he jumped off the train in a different place. Now,
oh, wow.
He's an intelligent and incredible guy, and I think that's analogous to the woman that you're talking about. It's all about drive. It's all about being positive, because once you start to kind of doubt yourself, it's not easy to write something that people are going to be interested in. Do you agree with me or no?
I do, and I don't. I mean, there's eyes for every set of book. There's a set of eyes for every book out there. And like, for example, Harry Potter. No one in a million years has said, I want to watch a wizard go to school.
Right.
But look at the fandom and the impact it had within our world of literature.
Yeah.
And everyone's imagination is worth something, whether it be in equity or whatever it be in whatever retrospect it comes through in. It's worth something to somebody, and that's why we are so needed in this world.
Yes. Now, I want you to tell our audience, again, the name of your company, how they reach you, and, if they want to be self-published by a company like yours, what they have to do.
Okay. We are Gladiator Publishing Company. Gladiator is in the movie with Russell Crowe, which is still a great movie. Gladiator Publishing Company. You can find us on gladiatorpublishing.com. Or you can just get a hold of us on our cell phones, believe it or not. We answer every customer's phone call. I'm 417-291-9162, and Haley is 417-455-6822. And if you want to come check us out, by all means, hit us up, send in your manuscripts. We'll go over it. You get a real editing experience for free. You get the full editor's right for free.
Wow.
And honestly, if they just have questions, they just want to know how things work or what it's really like, let us know. Haley is always open to speak to incoming questions.
I hear you. Now, in most of my shows, I ask the person who I'm interviewing for the last word. Is there something you want to tell our audience, both of you? And so jump in first, Albert, and then you, Haley.
The number one thing is don't give up on yourself. Every writer became a writer for a reason. Writers are held at a high regard in society, and they still are today. And don't forget why you decided to carry that burden, that extra weight of being, today's penman, today's pen for hire. Be proud of who you are and go for it, man. Go head first. Go crazy. Don't be scared.
Yeah. And what do you think, Haley?
I think right along the same lines, and don't let one bad experience deter you from the rest of your career. We've seen that happen over and over again, and it's devastating. Just pick yourself up and learn from it and push forward, because it's so rewarding and it is so worth it. And it's such a great job, and we wouldn't trade it for the world. So I think just keep pushing.
I really don't want to leave this out. First of all, I'm very pleased that you've told people how to get in touch with you, because I think that you're somebody who can do great work for people. But there's something else. It's a very lonely business, writing books. You're all by yourself, and you have to kind of shut yourself in. What do people tell you that makes them feel? I'm just curious about that because not everybody wants to be alone and, really kind of put themselves in a situation where they have to be very focused. So how do you answer that, Albert?
Oh, we understand the solitude that comes with being writers. Me being a career writer, and Haley, she writes as well. And there's plenty of days where we lock ourselves in our office, and I'm talking about weeks on end, and we don't speak to nobody. And we understand, we get it. If anyone just needs someone to hear them speak and just acknowledge the fact that they're writers, give us a call. We're the everyday writer. We're not just publishers. Don't go by where I'm registered and what I do for a living. That's what we do. And Haley spends hours a day. I'm talking about countless hours a day just speaking to writers.
Right.
And it's kind of fascinating that we still have time to do our daily job.
That's right. Because I'm sure that a lot of people need your help, and you assist them in ways that help them so much. So my guests today have been Albert Kaufman. He's with a company that he started, actually he hasn't. His grandfather started, I should say. It's called Gladiator Publishers. And they're there for you whenever you need them. And they sound like they really can do so much for you. And the other person who we interviewed today was Haley Young, who is Albert's colleague, who edits the books and who spends hours helping people really to try to get past the problems that they have writing. So I thank the two of you for being on the Susan Brender Show, and anytime you want to come back, ready to have you back. So thank you again.
Oh, Susan, we're gonna be regulars.
Well, we love regulars. We love
you're gonna get sick of us, I promise.
No way. And if I ever decide to write a book, you know where I'm going to go?
I hope you say Gladiator.
Well, there you go. All right. Thank you very much, the two of you. And again, thank you for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Thank you, Ms. Brender. You have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.